Greetings, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So this is about how Trump has achieved the impossible. He's managed to increase coronavirus 10,000-fold since saying it was going to be reduced to almost zero. Do you remember that? It was 26th of February. He said that 15 cases in the United States, and within 15 days it'd be close to zero. It's 10,000 times higher than when he made that prediction. 150,000 cases in the United States, at least 2,000 deaths, about 500 people died today. Wow, that really took some doing. Trump, who had warning after warning for months, the last major country to get coronavirus on a large scale. Wow, it really is a staggering accomplishment to bring about the deaths of so many of his people, because, you know, the death rate from coronavirus is at least 1% of those infected. Some countries up to 10% of those infected, and obviously is going to metastasize across the whole country. The figure 150,000 is only of those who have been tested, and people have been constantly going on at him. How would have been tested? And then he's got his sycophants and yes men and yes women, people like Dr. Burke, going out telling these barefaced lies for him, but not willing to go into particulars about test numbers, saying that he's really au fait with the minutiae of this, that he understands data. I've never heard Trump cite a single statistic on this one, and numbers are rather important. I mean, I'm not a numbers guy. He's supposed to be. He's a businessman, but he's so good at numbers he's gone bankrupt 4 times. The king of debt. Anyway, so he was calling a corona hoax a couple of months ago, and then he's lying about his lies and saying, no, I wasn't saying that corona didn't exist. I was simply saying that the Democrats were using it as a hoax somehow. They also said that it was a hoax on the Democrats. Doesn't make any sense at all. Just a typical Trumpism. Anyway, so it's killing a lot of people. His campaign, which is already going for re-election, they're very frightened about this. They are rending the sky with their threats, cease and desist letters to people say, don't quote the president's words accurately. Don't make him look dishonest by repeating what he actually said. Don't make him look stupid by quoting him accurately. Well, maybe that's because he is stupid and he is totally dishonest. Telling barefaced lies. It seems to me the technique is this, to incessantly machine gun the public with lies so fast they can't possibly think about them, to never apologize, to never retract, never allow people a moment of respite, just to keep on going. It's exhausting for people, and some people are so deeply engaged with the Trump cult, so emotionally and psychologically committed, that they don't have the courage to bring themselves to say, hey, I was conned. What a chump I was to be fooled by such a blatant con man. So I don't think he's really up to date with the granularity of this. I'm not. It's difficult to keep pace with the figures. They're spreading so fast. Anyway, so he refused to prepare, despite giving fair warning. Now, do not draw the inference from my words that I'm saying every other country got this right. No, they didn't. I'm sitting here in the United Kingdom, and Her Majesty's government got this quite badly wrong. Should have done far better. I'd slag them off too. But Trump's even worse for all sorts of reasons. His country's got more money. He had more warning, and on and on. And he's contending to tell blatant lies about it, which I don't think the UK government is. I've never heard anyone say that they are. Ventilators didn't produce enough. Even now, has he ordered companies to produce them? I'm not sure that he has, and he's at that power. He invoked that power, but didn't actually give the order. I'm not sure he's used the military as he could have, military doctors and nurses to serve civilians. Closing down the pandemic unit when he inherited the presidency, the transfer of power, refused to take a briefing for his team about how to handle a pandemic should one break out. And they've broken out every few years over the past 20 years. We've had something, SARS, avian flu, swine flu, that Middle East respiratory syndrome. This one, have I missed one? We didn't know when it was going to come, but you had to be ready just in case. Some of those epidemics turned out not to be that widespread. They were epidemics, not pandemics. You never know. You need to be prepared just in case the rainy day comes, to use the understatement of the century. So not issuing adequate health warnings, giving people stupid advice, saying exactly the wrong thing, effectively sentencing people to death because tens of millions of people are foolish enough to place their faith in him. They trust his words. His office carries an awful lot of weight. When you think it's the president, some people wrongly assume that they can trust the president. The president is wise. He's surrounded by smart people, and he has some smart people around him, but he often chooses to disregard expert advice, refuses to be told things that he finds unpalatable, which is completely moronic and infantile. That's the very beginning of adulthood. I'm going to listen to advice, whether I like it or not. I got to accept it. Okay, grow up, man up, and deal with advice which is sometimes unwelcome. You need to hear the truth, even if it's unpleasant. Only then can you make sensible decisions based on the facts and not on fantasy. Anyway, a hoax. A bit like, oh, well, I meant to say not a hoax. He's tried to use this excuse before, so he can't speak properly. The proper words don't come out of his mouth. A bit like, do you believe that Putin interfered when he was interviewed in that press conference? And he's so petrified of Putin. Putin's got it by the short and curlies. Perhaps he's got that PP tape after all, or all this financial skullduggery on Trump, who always refuses to release his tax returns. Trump is the man who likes maximum publicity, always showing off, but not about his tax returns. A deafening silence about how much money he actually has, where it comes from, why. The truth can't reflect well on him. Anyway, so saying, no, I don't see any reason why they would interfere. Oh, I meant to say not, but he didn't have the courage to say not in the middle in the presence of Putin, because he cowers before him, his paymaster, perhaps his puppet master. So Trump then tries to say that things were jokes. I don't know him to be a joker. I've never heard him tell a joke. I've never heard him laugh. Hardly ever gets any laughs at any of his rallies. His supporters don't seem to think it was a joke. A bit like when he urged people to hack Hillary Clinton and then claiming it was a quip. And then Ann Coulter, one of his attack dogs, saying, oh, well, Democrats pretend not to understand. A gag. Well, not remotely funny. He was obviously urging the Russian government to carry on hacking the Democratic National Committee's server. A bit like when he accused Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton of founding ISIS, but then they said it was a joke. This is all in the same speech, but then saying, well, it wasn't really a joke. Make your mind up. A man who doesn't know his own mind. Does he have a mind? And if he really thought that they founded ISIS, we did not have the FBI investigate them. Just flagrant falsehoods, non-stop. This is no laughing matter in a political rally to accuse people of being the masterminds of one of the worst terrorist organizations of modern times. He's ordering drone strikes on ISIS. Why not drone strikes on Obama and Hillary then, if that's what he really believes? Yet more absolutely utterly blatant lying from Trump and his lying administration, lying and lying and lying, and then lying about people who say that he's lying. It's just endless. The Democrats have obviously got the moral high ground, is that they almost always tell the truth. Better if they absolutely always did, but got to be realistic. They're just human. So the Democrats, they might be saying, well, he lies all the time, and it's a winning strategy. Are we idiots to be actually telling the truth? Shall we start lying? Is that going to work for us? Telling the truth certainly doesn't seem to be. But anyway, I imagine Trump has lost his reason. I don't think it's such a smart strategy for him. I don't think he blatantly lied that much a little bit in the old days. Bit in business, but if you look back to the 90s or 80s. But what would part of the reason be? That he honestly can't tell what's truth and what's not? It's just wishful thinking. If he wants something to be true, he thinks that it is true. He just cannot distinguish fantasy from reality. The guy's really lost his marbles. There was patently a prima facie case for suggesting that he was not compos mentis to serve as president, and he obviously must have thought so, which is why in January 2018 he put himself forward for a psychiatric evaluation and released that to the media with great fanfare. Why? Because he and his team obviously knew that on the face of it there was evidence that he was going senile, that he has pre-Alzheimer's like his father before him. And if you don't think that there's significant evidence, you wouldn't go forward to that. I'm not putting myself forward. I don't think anyone would suggest that I should go for one of these sort of things. Partly I'm rather younger than him. Just so many absolutely risible lies he told, that he's the fittest president ever, the healthiest president ever, than John F. Kennedy, who was 43 when he became president. When Trump was, how old was Trump? Was he 72 when he became president? Obama, who played basketball every day, when he was 40s when he became president. Or Bill Clinton jogged all the time. George W. Bush jogged all the time, was in the top 1% of health for men his age. and on and on and on. Jimmy Carter used to go jogging. So many of them were actually quite physically fit in recent times. Trump, who's a couch potato, who's got a belly you could put on the table. I know no one to talk, but I don't think I'm quite as unhealthy as he is, and obviously I'm a lot younger than him, and so many other things. Doesn't drink. Red wine's actually good for your heart. Someone who is so slothful he won't even walk from one hole to the next on his golf courses. Anyway, and eating junk food all the time. Wow. So the people will say, oh, it's Trump being Trump. Yeah, that means Trump being senile, or Trump being Trump, which means being a pathological liar. Can't help himself telling a very easily detectable lie, something which you can prove for a certain is a lie, but he'll say it anyway. So he's not in control of himself. So Trump as he is now, losing his mind, not Trump as he was 20 years ago. Trump is Trump. That's no excuse. Yeah, Trump is clearly completely incapable of doing the job, unsuitable temperamentally, and losing his mind. And no, I'm not a physician, and no, I can't diagnose, but like any person who's got half a brain, there are certain things that you can tell, there are certain medical things I recognize the sight of blood. I know what a sneeze is. If somebody's absolutely raving mentally ill, I recognize that. You don't need to be a doctor to know certain things like that, to know what a bruise is. Anyway, to know that you need to breathe or something, it's about that obvious what he's suffering from. Anyway, so his mental incapacity is a danger of the first importance. It can be so easily manipulated. You can play him like a fiddle, just compliments, because it's all about me, self-love. What do they say about me? Oh, he's very nice to me. He said nice things about me. How infantile is this? And yet Republicans think that's fantastic or laugh it off. These evangelical Christians who are meant to be followers of Jesus, who was meek and mild. What about humility? What about self-effacement? My God, it is nauseating. It just never stops with him. So there's complete lack of self-restraint, which is why he's so furious. He's raging about things. There's this total absence of objectivity, to calm down, take a step back, detach yourself emotionally from things, and then try and judge situations on that basis, to seek the truth. However attractive or unattractive the truth is, face up to the truth. I know it's difficult. I find it difficult too sometimes, but he doesn't even try. Emotionalizing everything, opining when he knows nothing about the subjects he's speaking about. I know more about ISIS than the generals. I could have been a general. These are some of the same things he said, that he's really stunned these professors of epidemiology with his profound comprehension of this subject, and on and on. So the guy's got no purchase on reality, a completely unrealistic estimation of his own abilities. Wow. And his prediction is just so badly wrong on so many things. I won't repeat all the ones I've said before. So there's this incessant bigging himself up, always being demeaning to others, fixated with ratings. Why? Why is he always extolling his own supposed virtues and feats? Because he clearly feels worthless. People who really have accomplished a lot let their accomplishments speak for themselves. They're too busy going out to achieve more. But he's not a big achiever, he's a big bragger. A braggart, braggadocio. It's sickening. So he's saying, oh, a lot of people watching my press conferences, like that's some sort of metric by how much he deals with this disease. Well, they're not doing it for fun, not for comedy value. They're doing it because there might be some worthwhile information. We should do this, we should do that. There's a new policy. Do we stay at home or not? Is there a new medicine? How can I get a test for coronavirus? Are there enough ventilators? It's stuff they need to know. Plus, more people are at home and not in the workplace, so they're more time channel surfing, and he'll always create some aggro. It won't be bland and businesslike like some of these press conferences usually are and should be, because it's not to be about verbal pyrotechnics, but with him it's always like that. You've always got to kowtow to him or face a fusillade of insults. So if a journalist asks him a worthwhile question, he'll say, that's a nasty question. And there'll be this furious tirade for him. Well, come on, answer it then. Answer the nasty question. It's a nasty situation. It's tough being president. If you're not tough enough, if you don't have a thick enough hide, get out of there. You could easily resign. So he won't answer these ones because he can't answer them. He's very easily flummoxed. Little wise guy. You're being a little wise guy. I think it was George Stephanopoulos. He asked him that when Stephanopoulos asked him a very worthwhile question about, would you testify under oath with Mueller? Well, clearly you wouldn't, because you'd perjure yourself, and that's jail time. So a journalist who's worth a salt, who asks him a decent question, puts a politician on the spot. Trump, he can't take it. Throwing the toys out of the pram, coming out with these vile, misogynistic insults like he did to Megyn Kelly those years ago, blood coming out of her wherever, and then claiming that wasn't an allusion to menstruation. What else could it have been? He obviously insults the publicist intelligence again and again, a snivelling coward who won't face up to a female journalist. Wow. He's despicable, calling the fake news media when he's the one producing fake news almost non-stop. Of course, he has his acolytes in the media, Fox News, which might as well be the publicity department of the Trump organization. So he'll never answer tough questions, despite saying he's tough all the time. Just running away, squealing pathetically, feeling hard done by, feeling sorry for himself. So every country's had these warnings. They have modeling about how it's going to go. You can see the graph. America's graph is going up steeper than anywhere else in the world. 193 countries. Now, admittedly, perhaps some countries are manipulating the figures. I don't think the United States government is. When the data is very bad, well, it's very bad already. Mark my words, pretty soon Trump will say, oh, that's fake news. Oh, the figures are wrong. It's your government to control that it's coming out from. Anything he doesn't like is false, according to him. Things he likes are true, and the good figures are higher. You've seen him so many times saying the number is this and this and this and going up and up and up. If it's a number that looks good for him to go up, like unemployment under Obama was something very low, like 5%. And Trump ends up by saying, oh, and some people are saying it's 42%. Who on earth ever said it's 42%? Just making it up on the spot. How do his supporters not see this and see this as lying? How does anyone buy such blatant bullshit? It really is distressing that there's so many people who are so dishonest, who are so delusional, have such an enormous capacity to fool themselves. Wow. Anyway, he's got it under control. If he's got it under control, then he must have made it go up. I mean, according to his rationale, under control. If you control the amount of coronavirus and it increases times 10,000, then you made that happen. Now, obviously, he didn't want it to happen. If I didn't know better, I think he did. He could hardly have responded worse. Could have locked down, could have done the unpopular thing, the presidential thing, and actually spared his people a lot of grief. Okay, even with a strict lockdown in Italy, it's been very tough, and Italy's suffered something like 10,000 deaths. Thankfully, it seems to have peaked and slightly going down. We're not out of the woods yet, but if we're lucky, in about a month, they might be able to ease off the lockdown a little, and on and on. And 2 months from now, maybe return to some sort of semblance of normal life. But it's far too early to relax. And the United States has not done a fraction of that. It's hitting New York City in particular, his hometown. Now, he has sent some aid to New York, but we'll see how there's been such maldistribution of the relief effort. So his caprice is staggering. I'm just astounded by his infantile conduct on a daily basis, like how he used to willfully incite violence at rallies, carry them out in stretchers, beat the shit out of them. I'll pay the legal fees. Seriously, did he ever pay any legal fees? I doubt it. Calling people enemies of the people, journalists for telling the truth. What's he then? If he incites violence against his own people, the fake news media, he is the one who's always spewing fake news. He wants to aggress others verbally and physically. Obviously, never had the physical courage to do it to anyone else in person. So what a wimp, hiding behind others. He shows his complete disregard for science and data. Just utter dishonesty from Trump, almost nonstop. So he's very revengeful. He's a man who nurses a grudge. If he says that he hates you, that's the one time that he's a man of his word, and he will remember that. Like the little hand things that really got to him, that really touched a raw nerve. Never forgotten that, because everything has to be big, lying about his height, lying about the height of his buildings, lying about his bank account, boasting about the size of his penis. I don't know. I don't really want to know. But if it really was that big, do you think he'd be compelled to say it was very big? I doubt it. If my hands are not small, something else is big, he was saying at his rally in 2016. Wow. And the family's values people, they vote for this guy. You know, some children are watching that, and he's a role model. Remember, children think that's the way to be a leader. I want to be president one day. I'm going to go around swaggering, making these sexual insults towards women, absolutely throwing a tantrum if somebody asked me a challenging question. People in the military is their commander-in-chief. Some of these teenage soldiers think, well, that's leadership. That's how you should behave. Obviously, very remotely, like in the military, well, you'd be facing discipline. He doesn't take responsibility. No, I don't take responsibility. So you're not the president then, so resign. Who does? If you're not in charge of the US government, what are you there for? So, wow, the buck should stop there. Has no courage to actually accept the responsibility of his office. What is a president for if not to handle situations like this? Why does the federal government even exist? It exists for emergencies precisely like this one. So aid to states distributed on the basis of how much the governor brown noses to the president. Florida receiving double the aid it requested. Now why? It might be because of obsequious compliments from the governor, or probably even more likely, electoral considerations. That is the bellwether state. If you win Florida, you win the Electoral College. You look back over a dozen elections or more, and that's true in almost every case. Anyway, so much of what he says is just polemic. Outright lying again and again and again, as though the Chinese deliberately caused coronavirus, which affected them first, affected them most. But they couldn't tell that Trump would react in such a stupid way. That's what's really going to sink the economy, causing more deaths than 9/11 already. Okay, and that's only just the beginning. Over 3,300 deaths. And you look at the response to 9/11, the money spent, the legislation, habeas corpus suspended, all that. Now, that was by human malice, this is by disease. Natural deaths happen anyway, I know, but this is beyond what usually happens, the ordinary natural deaths. I know several thousand people die in the United States every day of the year, but this is obviously an additional 500 deaths, and it's just the beginning, and it's climbing and climbing and climbing, going off the chart. And even those who are not dying, some of them are ill, and on and on. So we'll contrast this against 9/11. Supposing George W. Bush had known the place that was going to be attacked, the precise time it was going to be attacked, the means it was going to be attacked, the names who were going to carry out the attack, and then did nothing, that would clearly be complicity. Donald Trump, he knew for 4 months that this was coming to the United States. They knew something about how the disease spread. They had various models about how much it would multiply. They knew ways that they could contain it. They knew ways they could test for it. They knew equipment they could get in to save people's lives, like ventilators, and he did nothing. He did nothing, refused to even think about it, lied and lied and lied, and told people that it wasn't going to be a problem on any significant scale. It was about to go away. It would be a miracle, magical thinking. Wow. This really is just a Herculean effort to do nothing, a sin of omission. Because doing nothing is also a choice. Knowing is just going to let rip and burn through the population. Some states have done a few things, and at a federal level almost nothing. This is criminal negligence, acquiescing in the spread of this pandemic. Now, it's certainly going to claim tens of thousands of lives, 10,000 if the US is lucky. The US government is now estimating between 100,000, between 200,000. There we are. And so much of this could have been prevented by Trump. I was even willing to give him credit. It actually wouldn't have been difficult to do the right thing, to listen to the experts and follow all the advice. There was that plan from the Obama administration, and he refused to go along with it. Wow. He's the most evil president the United States has had by a long shot. Goodbye.